Welcome to Sabbath Collective, a community of people interested in celebrating the Sabbath and pursuing God through an Hebraic worldview of Scripture and our times. We're going to light the candles together, and these represent the light of unity and peace. Hey, Alexandra, good to see you. And then it's tradition that the mothers of the house encircle the flames 3 times, and that welcomes in the Sabbath of joy. And tonight we are happy to be together. We're doing something a little bit different. I'm on my phone. My Mevo camera did not want to talk to Facebook today for some reason. They weren't playing. So I'm on my phone, so I'm not going to be able to kind of zoom in on the cards very well, but we're going to play it by ear, and then hopefully you can also maybe look up the verses along with me. Hopefully everyone can hear me well, and we will get started. Tonight is going to be a ride. It's one of a 2-part series, How Not to Become Delusional. Why we fall into conspiracy theories that escalate into delusion. So I've been talking about this for weeks and saying we were going to talk through it, and tonight we are. Good to see you, Randall. Who else did I miss? Hey, Diana, good to see you. I think that is probably Beth. Good to see you. Beth, you got to just make sure you're posting as me, because I think you're showing up as Sabbath Collective now, if that's you. Just make sure you're posting as you. Hey, Aaron. So, yeah, very topical. So, again, why we fall into conspiracy theories that escalate into delusion. So, again, for the past few years, really, I've been obsessively researching conspiracy theorists. But since SARS-CoV-2 and the insanity we've seen here, I have really narrowed in on it. Why does a person connect to these beliefs, these groups, these sources of information? How can a person listen to lies from a political leader, know they are lies, and default to, he probably knows something that we don't? Or, I don't believe the video with him saying that lie because videos can be edited. When all evidence points to this, that it's at best inaccurate and at worst a lie. Hey, good to see you, Catherine. Shabbat Shalom. So again, this is a conspiracy theorist. So how can those conspiracies change people's personalities and temperaments to the point where something like an event like January 6th can happen? Now, some may argue that the people did not change at all. They were actually those people all along. And yes, I understand that. But I also have personally known people that I thought I knew that seem to have become completely different people, completely irrational, when they kind of go into this black hole. And I've also read a lot about other people that say the same thing about people they know. There's a real interesting documentarian who saw her father kind of change into this angry other person after watching hours of conspiracy news and signing up for all these newsletters and texts. And she, along with her mother, removed his ability to watch and receive them. So they kind of like did some stealthy stuff, some covert stuff. And when he couldn't access them anymore, his personality went back to before. So maybe that was there all along, but it was not dominant. So I've also read from people who get free of the brainwashing, and they can talk about what really actually happened to them, which is very interesting. Conspiracy theories resonate with something. It can be some sort of legitimate conviction about something, but oftentimes it's white privilege or hatred or fear or entitlement or confusion or disappointment. And there are always underlying issues which set a person up to become believers of this. Hey, Brittany, good to see you. Great to have you with us. And so, again, I think we are all painfully aware that there are delusional people believing conspiracy theories, and their actions are hurting this world. Now, here's the real drop on this. Beliefs have consequences. They affect more people than one's own self. And I know sometimes when I've been talking to someone, they may say, well, it's just what I believe. I'm allowed to have my own beliefs. I'm not hurting anybody. But here's the thing. A lot of these beliefs are very dangerous. And all beliefs, even beliefs that you think you hold to yourself, affect more than yourself. So I know you probably can't see this. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do it up there anyway. And if you have your Bibles, or you can look online, we're going to look at 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5. So it starts out, for although we do live in the world, we do not wage war in a worldly way, because the weapons we use to wage war are not worldly. And that word for worldly is the Greek word sarkikos, and it means governing through human nature. So this says, the weapons we use to wage war are not worldly, meaning whatever we're going to use, it's not just sort of governing through human nature. The text goes on the contrary, they have God's power for demolishing strongholds. So these are the kind of weapons that don't just operate through human governing, things that we plan or rules that we make. And we kind of see this with social media now, how they're trying to put the halt on a lot of people that are really, tweeting, texting, posting crazy, but it's like whack-a-mole, right? I mean, one pops up, they get it, 10 more pop up. And this is exactly what this text is talking about. That would be governing through human nature. And although it can do some things, and we shouldn't do nothing, it's not really going to have the impact. Again, it says that spiritual weapons have God's power for demolishing strongholds. And that word for strongholds is the Greek word okuroma, and it means walls, but it's used for walls in two ways. One is for prison walls. Now, prison walls keep people in, right? Trapped in. And one is for city walls that keep people out. So the spiritual weapons that we use tear down walls that keep people trapped and keep people excluded. And those are the weapons we really want to tap into. We're going to really get into them next week. That's what the lies do. They keep people trapped inside and they keep other people out. The text goes on, we demolish arguments and every arrogance. Oh, I love that word. I like this translation. Every arrogance that raises itself up against the knowledge of God. That word for knowledge actually means understanding. So, every understanding that we have of the character and nature of God, any argument that rises up against what we know God to be is arrogant. And boy, we can see it on their faces, can't we? The text goes on, we take every thought captive, and that means to lead away, and we make it obey the Messiah. And that Greek word, again, I'm sorry I can't zoom in on this, is hupokoe, and it means submission. So every thought that rises up against who God is, that face of arrogance, is led away, and it is brought into submission. And submission means it has to obey. Even if it's not obeying on the inside, that's okay. It doesn't have an expression in society or in our world. That's our work. That's our spiritual work against the lies. Now, I use the term delusional and not the technical term for conspiracy theorists, which are conspiratorial ideation. Now, those two terms are theoretically and empirically connected, But let's think of delusional as the step just past believing conspiracy theories, to having that conspiracy theory completely take over your life. Delusions are associated with reduced social, personal, health, and occupational functioning, okay? So it's one step past believing the conspiracy theory. Hey, Lisa, great to see you, honey. Shabbat Shalom. Hey, Phoebe, good to see you. So what would that look like? Let's use a more benign conspiracy theory, okay? Chemtrails. Chemtrails is a conspiracy theory, and that is that the trail that you see coming out of some planes is actually a toxin that the government or other powerful people are spraying over people with the intention of altering the mind, lifespan, or reproductive ability. Now, people that believe that join others who believe that, and then they get their information from what has been called silos, meaning all the information sticks together and it doesn't integrate with any other information. Now, this can be conspiratorial ideation, but it becomes delusion when a person won't go outside because they're afraid of getting the chemicals from the planes, or they want to move into a place where there can be no planes that fly overhead, or they start stockpiling rocket launchers, okay? That's the conspiracy theory that has become delusional, and it's changed a person's life. And the delusional conspiracy theorists, I know we all know this, believe the ends always justify the means. Blue lives matter. Oh wait, unless they're doing their jobs and protecting people in the Capitol, then they're traitors and they need to be killed. Right? Come on, you know I'm telling the truth here. Again, there's a conflict all the time, but it's never recognized. They don't see the contrast there. Delusions are held with 100% conviction. There are no contradictions in the delusional mind. Like pro-life. I'm pro-life. But put those brown people in cages and take their kids away from them. Again, this is contradiction. And they don't see it as contradiction. Delusional people do not see the contradictions. There is no room ever for another viewpoint. Any attempts to challenge a delusion are likely to be either aggressively attacked or it just ignored. So it may actually be easier to challenge a conspiracy theorist than a delusional conspiracy theorist. And more people are likely to be less certain of a conspiracy theory than they are of a delusion. Now, what we saw on January 6th, from the leaders on down, that was delusional. Now, this is all very nuanced because there are many conspiracies and we can point to them that may be valid and quantifiable. For instance, systemic racism is a conspiracy. Now, when I say the word conspiracy, I'm talking about the actual English definition, which is a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. So, systemic racism is that. There's a huge system that profits from systemic racism and propagates the lies surrounding its support, right? We all know this. That's a conspiracy theory, okay? How we are poisoning this planet and our own bodies by our use and practices is also a valid conspiracy, right? Systemic racism, a valid conspiracy. We're poisoning the planet and causing global warming, a valid conspiracy. That a handful of people that are benefiting from these practices are orchestrating the whole thing is a valid conspiracy. So there are all kinds of conspiracy theories that are legitimate. So what we're not saying is anything that's not completely mainstream belief about powerful people is not a legitimate thing. No. we believe oftentimes that there are powerful groups of people that are trying to control and cover up, and many times that's legit. But it's how we relate to those conspiracies, how we continue to learn, how we challenge our presuppositions, and how we live in this belief with a kind of open and balanced perspective. And it's the difference between us moving from believing a theory and then working to change that thing that is wrong to becoming dangerously delusional. Conspiracy theories are actually as old as politics. So let's do a little flashback. Nero fabricated one to shift the blame onto Christians for the burning of Rome. You probably know that story. Those who rejected the resurrection of Yeshua as Messiah came up with a conspiracy theory to explain the empty tomb and his many appearances. In fact, there were guards put at the entrance of the tomb to stop anyone from taking the body, because they knew that the buzz was he was going to be resurrected. Boy, that's interesting, isn't it? Just like the hype of stealing the election. That was done pre-election, wasn't it? When someone suspects something is going to happen before it even does, and they don't want it to happen, so they preemptively create a conspiracy theory. We see that at the tomb. We see that today. When I first came into faith, these conspiracy theory concepts and assumptions were all connected to pop eschatology, to these end time teachings, right? Secular humanism was the big enemy. Satan worshipers that owned companies that put secret satanic labels on their products. We were inundated with conspiracies in the 80s. Hitler also was a master at weaving conspiracy tales. There were pervasive rumors running rampant even before World War II concerning Jewish people. One of note was that they were using Gentile blood in the making of Passover matzos and drinking it in the 4 cups. And these and other rumors were so out there, so bizarre and astonishingly ignorant, that they actually didn't seem worth a response. However, left unchecked, they became what historians call a common knowledge, which means some people just believed them and incorporated them into their lives. And again, these ideas have consequences. Ideas have consequences. They can lay the foundation for something much more sinister. Those doctors that told people don't wear masks and this is hyped up and no worse than the flu and the vaccine is dangerous. Well, thousands of people are following those doctors off a cliff. Conspiracy theories aren't harmless. And conspiracy theorists, including one in Congress, harassed the families and friends of children who died in school shootings. In December 2017, a conspiracy theorist who thought a DC pizzeria was abusing children opened fire with an assault weapon and felt like he was doing the right thing to protect kids. By the way, HBO has a really good show called After Truth that kind of gets into a lot of these. And again, how fake news is created and curated and how it affects actual people. In 2018, a person mailed pipe bombs to people in the Democratic Party who were named in a far-right conspiracy theory. And then, of course, the downplaying of a virus as a Democratic hoax and the posting of easily disproven videos all put people's lives at risk. And the quality of their life at risk. Hey, Jim. Good to see you. Shabbat Shalom. I didn't put those two together until now. I think you're probably talking about Yeshua at the tomb and what happened there, Jim. And with today. Yeah, same thing, right? People do not change, do they? Not at all. It's the same. It's just always the same. So 2 Samuel 15:12 says, and again, if you're looking this up, and so the conspiracy, and that is the Hebrew word kisher, which means an alliance based on a lie. So let's make that our little inside joke. It's spelled, sorry you can't see it, Q-E-S-H-E-R, kisher, Q-E-S-H-E-R. So and it's an alliance based on a lie. So whenever we see somebody who's throwing out that stuff, and they're with other people throwing out that stuff, we can just yell, kisher, kisher. It's an alliance based on a lie. Again, let's go back to the text. And so the conspiracy, again, the Hebrew word kisher, the conspiracy, an alliance based on a lie, gained strength. And Absalom's following kept on increasing. So here we see a text where this conspiracy, an alliance based in a lie, gained strength. And the person behind this was Absalom. Absalom was the son of David, the king. And Absalom told lies about his father over and over and over and over again, so that he could discredit David and become king himself. But here's the thing about these lies. They work. Lies work. So what about lies concerning others? Leviticus 19:16 says, do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. The thing is now that we see now, and I see this over and over again, with people professing to be Christians, they will read a lie or hear a lie. They won't take 2 seconds to research it. They'll spread that lie, post that lie, say that lie, then realize it's a lie, but have no remorse at all. And when you call them on it, they say, well, it doesn't really matter because that person that I said that about is a bad person. And here, what does this text say? Do not do this. Between the pandemic and the election, misinformation, and that term misinformation means false information that is spread regardless of intent to mislead. So misinformation can mean a mistake, it can mean misremembering, but it's wrong. It's wrong information. The word doesn't care about the intent of it. It's simply false information. But then there's the word disinformation. And disinformation is misinformation that is weaponized. It is with the intention of misleading. Misinformation and disinformation have reached a critical mass. To be sure, governments have done shady and terrible things and then covered it up. It's our history. But false flags, QAnon, deep state disinformation suggests that these believers need to rise up and eliminate everyone who is not, quote, with us. Hanging them was the phrase in front of the Capitol. So, now that we see this clearly, and I think we all do, no remorse at all, Phoebe is saying, absolutely. Why are people open to becoming delusional? And this will be helpful for us to be aware for our own selves, and also for understanding others who may have fallen into this vortex, okay? So, being part of a mysterious secret makes us feel special, okay? Paul dealt with this. The Apostle Paul dealt with the mystery cults that were very common in ancient Rome. And they attracted followers by promising to reveal to them the inner mysteries of the universe to anyone who became a part of their group and joined them. Cult leaders always capitalize on this, right? Conspiracy theorists, I don't think you're going to see this, but here we go. Conspiracy theories attract narcissists, People who would rather choose to believe in illogical tales rather than accept their own circumstances as either a twist of fate or the result of their own decisions. I'm going to post this later for you. So again, they would rather believe a conspiracy theory. They would rather be delusional rather than accept their own circumstances as either fate, it just happened, or the result of something they did, meaning it was their own fault. So the thinking with delusional people like this is everyone else has been fooled by the fake media, but I know better. I am special. I know the real truth. Now, while narcissism isn't necessarily the only motivator for conspiracy theorists, it does explain why some people have such a hard time letting go of the conspiracy theories, even when confronted with undeniable proof, because that belief is connected to their identity. That belief is who they are. And their response to another perspective is that's what they want you to believe. Don't believe everything the fake news tells you. Do your research. And then when you show them research, what do they say? I don't believe those fact-checking sites. You see, decoding secret messages and seeing hidden patterns. Now, keep tracking with me here because this is really key in understanding why people go down this road and also understanding we can too. And we do. Let me start back again. Decoding secret messages and seeing the hidden patterns and symbols into a narrative is like a kind of game of sorts with similar brain responses. For those of you who play the video games, it's like that. And we're actually designed by God to see patterns. Keep tracking with me. It's what keeps us healthy and alive, right? So again, this is an evolutionary process, and we still have this in our brains to see patterns. Now we can see them for emotional and spiritual reasons, but originally they were what kept us alive. Now let me give you an example of that. If you're walking in the jungle and you almost get bitten by a venomous snake that is hidden under a rock, in a little crevice under the rock, and it lunges out at you, and if it got you, it was going to kill you. You remember that. And if you're walking down the path in a jungle again and you see a stick underneath that little crevice and below the rock, and you think it's a snake, you're going to be okay even if you're wrong because you're still alive. So if you jump or if you take a wide path around it, who cares? You were wrong. It's a stick. It's not a snake, but you're still alive. But if you see a snake and think it's a stick, you could be dead. So you can see here in our brain, recognizing patterns is survival. It's what kept us alive. But when it's twisted, we see patterns where there are none. And again, there is what's called an illusory pattern perception. And that's where people see all kinds of patterns where there may not necessarily be any. Let me give you a real life example of this. I was with a person one time, a couple years ago, who said, hey, this coffee shop closes at 2 every day. And when they close, they give everything away for free because they don't want to throw it out. So let's go in, let's go in at 2 when they close so we can get free stuff. And I'm like, really? They give everything away that they didn't sell for free? Like, why would people come in at 1:30 if they know they could go in at 2 and get free stuff? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And they're like, no, it's what happened. It's their policy. So I'm like, okay. So we go into the coffee shop. It's 5 to 2, 2 to 2. We go up to the counter, we pay. And it's not for free. So we leave, and I said, well, what do you think happened there? And she said, well, I was there 2 times, and the people sat down at the counter to get something, and they gave them, some pastry, and they said, and when the person tried to pay with their check, they said, oh, don't worry about it. We're done for the day anyway. We'd only throw it in the trash. I saw it twice, so that's a perfect example of how people go into a theory because they saw something happen 2 times. That could have been any number of reasons, right? That person said, don't worry about it. Maybe they knew the person didn't have money. Maybe the person kept an eye on their coffee shop for them. Maybe they were a relative. Whatever it was, you don't jump to the conclusion because you see a pattern that it is a policy to give away the food because they're closing, right? But people do this, and they do it a lot. And some people are more prone to it than others. Aaron says, there's a lot of similar behavior in the Western church. Exactly. Especially making you feel special. Yes. And the discouragement of looking elsewhere for information. Absolutely, Aaron, right? Like, I used to say this a lot. I don't know if you remember me saying this a lot. When I used to teach, I used to always say, check me out. And anyone that doesn't say, check me out, is problematic. But you're right, Aaron. A lot of people take it as some sort of confrontation when you don't. Phoebe says, or pushing information that only supports what they believe. Yep, absolutely. Cosign. Conspiracy theories can help bring a purpose and an urgency to boring or unfulfilled lives. So people that do not feel good about themselves, let's say, get a sense of belonging. Hey, Veronica, good to see you. Get a sense of belonging and get a sense of purpose or being justified as being something, bigger than themselves. And this is why they want to be part of it. Number 2, the conspiracy theories can help make sense of a chaotic world. So first, they want to be special. 2, conspiracy theories help make sense of a chaotic world. And this is actually the more popular reason. Statistician Nassim Taleb popularized the phrase black swan, and maybe you've heard of this. And it refers to high-profile, hard-to-predict, and rare events that are beyond the realm of normal expectations in history. In science, in finance, in technology, no one can predict them. Examples of black swan in our history would be the assassination of John F. Kennedy, or the Fukushima nuclear accident, or September 11th terrorist attack, or a bat carrying a novel virus that would cause a global pandemic. Black swan events are incredibly fertile ecosystems for conspiracy theories. When the unexpected occurs, there's always this kind of initial void. And in our brains, we have no precedent. And again, we have no context. We have no precedent of what happened. And our brain, that's our design, is trying to categorize what happened. It's what the brain was designed to do, to make connections. But it cannot, because nothing has happened like this before. And this is a kind of trauma. It's unpredictable. It's unexplained. Someone works hard maybe their whole life and is about to retire when all of a sudden their retirement fund is lost in an economic downturn. It's chaos. It's a void of explanation as to why and how. But now, again, in that void, here comes the political conspiracy theories and the xenophobic conspiracies. Well, this was this group's fault. This was these people's fault. It fills the void of the unexplainable. If we can blame someone, it is explained, and we can eliminate the threat by making them enemies so it won't happen again. Fear is a very real problem with conspiracy theorists. In fact, most of them are filled with fear. And during a period of uncertainty like we're in now, we need to be very mindful of how our fears kind of fill in the blanks with our previous history and the sort of innate negativity bias that is actually rarely true. We have to be careful not to just let our minds go and then we sort of fill in all the blanks to make sense of things. Changing the narrative prevents the emotions from coloring the facts. In other words, Well, let's look at Isaiah 8:12, and again, sorry. Do not call conspiracy everything that these people call conspiracy. This is Isaiah 8:12. Do not call conspiracy, and again, conspiracy is when powerful people do things to take control that is harmful or unlawful. Isaiah says, do not call conspiracy everything that these people call conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread. Let me just read that one more time because I know you can't see it. Do not call conspiracy everything that these people call conspiracy. Do not fear what they fear, and do not dread. When we're in this space, we won't let our brain just start coloring in the lines. Concerning these kinds of things, Yeshua spoke, fear not. And he says that, he tells people to fear not about very real and present mortal dangers. Fear not. So when we fall into fear, that's really going to prop up delusion in a big way. Hey Ed, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom. That's really going to prop up delusion in a very big way. Fear not. Carl Sagan says, for me, it is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring. That's such a good quote, and I'm going to post it. All of us sometimes just want to have an understanding, well, this is the enemy, and these people are bad, and we're in this battle, and we're in this war, and we have to get rid of all of them, and this is why bad things happen. It's these people's groups, and evangelists are prophesying over here, and then nothing happens like they say. And then oftentimes people are left with, what did I believe and why? And of course people spin it, but what did I believe and why? And so the reason why I'm talking about this is not only so we are careful with delusion and conspiracy theories, but so that we can help people to come back to a solid truth again, understanding how they got here. So next week, what we're going to do is talk about how we can guard against them in our own lives and also help people that are starting to ask questions. I had somebody recently email me who kind of got swept into the whole prophetic thing in a very sad and sad way. And she did a lot of things because she believed a lot of the prophecies. And she asked me, and she realized I was wrong, because no matter how they say, well, God wanted it, but the devil didn't, so that's why it didn't happen. She said, I believed a lot of things, and it cost me friends, and it cost me family, and it cost me money, and it cost me my soul, because now I'm just angry, and I feel, and here's what she said to me when she was all done. She goes, now I don't know what to do next. That's so good. That's exactly where they need to be in order to come out of that. I don't know what to do next. Because when we think we know exactly what to do next, we'll just keep on going down that trail. But to, again, acceptance and giving it to the Lord and be open and be teaching and not lose that love, that peace. That's where we'll be on solid ground. Hey, Randall says the teaching has been incredibly insightful. Oh, good. Thank you, Randall. So I love you all, and I will see you next week. And in the meantime, if we have any comments or thoughts, or we're seeing things in our lives, please comment either here in the members group, and listen to Andre's song. Alexandra posted about it, Delusion, because it is so clicking with where we're at tonight, okay? So God bless, Shabbat Shalom, and I love you all.